Everyone likes to have USC in their mouth. So, what are the haters saying? And even better, what are friends of the program saying?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Colkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube or wherever you're going to download your podcast, remember, this show is free. I appreciate your support. You can show your appreciation, and it means a lot to the show. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Become a subscriber. It's quick. It's easy. Click that red subscribe button. When you see this, that thumbs up, smash it. Everybody loves to smash. And I don't want you to miss an episode. Click that bell notification. You got yourself covered. You'll never miss a show. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You know what's worse than someone hating on your team? It's when someone feels sorry for you. I actually prefer the haters because haters are usually, they're coming from a place of jealousy, envy. That's where it's usually rooted. USC is everyone's circled calendar game. We know that because Lincoln Riley has been telling us that throughout the season. What is worse is, like I said, someone feeling sorry for you. And even worse than that is when a hater feels sorry for you. When the haters have some skin in the game, in other words, you have former players, they have experience. It adds some credibility. Former Oregon Duck, and he actually played in the NFL for quite a long time. So his name's offensive lineman Jeff Schwartz. He isn't like what I would call one of USC's biggest fans. And again, he probably has reason. He played in Eugene at Oregon when Pete Carroll was USC's head coach. I believe Oregon's record during that time was 1-3. They got that win in 2007. I believe the score was 24-17. That was a 2-loss season for USC, if I remember correctly. That was the upset in the Coliseum by Stanford. So that wasn't one of Pete Carroll's best coached teams. Nevertheless, give credit to Oregon; they won that game. And also, I think Jeff might have wanted to be a Trojan growing up. I mean, he grew up in Southern California. USC was in his backyard. However, what Jeff does do, and I have a lot of respect for this guy, he likes to review game film from the previous weekend's game. He doesn't just focus on Oregon. He's a big Pac-12 dude. So you don't have to like him, but I think you do have to respect his knowledge and his opinion. On Tuesday, he sent out a series of tweets. I'm going to read this off for you. Not to pile on USC, but I'm just about finished with Utah's offensive film from Saturday. USC's defense is just unacceptable. They are small and it's noticeable. The amount of times they slant out of gaps with backers who don't fill gaps with any urgency is alarming. Sure, you get some tackles for loss doing this, but you also get gashed. And while I'd love for USC to play straight up on defense, and they can with success at times, their defensive line is freaking tiny. They got Solomon Byrd, 250 pounds. Dejon Benton, 270 pounds. Stanley Taufo, 275 pounds. Tyrone Taleni, 275 pounds. And they're playing with their hands down inside the tackles. What do you expect is going to happen against Utah? And Utah's offensive line isn't what it has been. Inconsistent, but better of lately. Once USC figured out Utah can't throw, they just had more guys around the box, and it was better. However, USC's defense couldn't set an edge ever. Sione Vaki just kept running around the corner. Pass rush with guys just rushing without any purpose and out of rush lanes. This is frickin' USC, man. They look like a bunch of G5 bodies playing defense. G5, group of 5. The level of schools below FBS. I got one word to respond to that. Ouch. Now, For everyone out there who heard that and saying, it's a duck, who cares? Tell me where he was wrong. I mean, why does a USC's speed defense have to be small also? Someone explain that to me. I mean, seriously, what's wrong with big and fast and more conventional? Even with the additions of Bear Alexander and Keon Bars during the offseason, in general, the guys up front are still small compared to the competition. When you're at programs like Washington State, where you're bringing in smaller guys as a rule because that's what's left over after everybody else has done recruiting, Grinch can use this type of scheme. It worked well enough up on the Palouse, got him the Ohio State defensive coordinator gig. And he was there long enough at Ohio State before Lincoln Riley scooped him up. So if Jeff Schwartz is the trained eye for this type of stuff, what about if we go to the untrained eye? And I'm going to use one Oklahoma fan who watched this stuff for a handful of years. Let me first say, I'm going to say I did not fact check any of this. So if there are any discrepancies, I apologize. However, Lincoln Riley, while at Oklahoma, from 2015 to 2019, he was the offensive coordinator. He was the offensive coordinator in 2015 and 2016, and Oklahoma went to the playoffs those years. In yards per play on offense, Oklahoma finished 13th, 2nd, 1st, and 1st in the nation those years. Here's a list of the NFL talent on those teams. Again, this is being provided to me by an Oklahoma fan who watches the show. And you had Baker Mayfield, 2015 through 2017. Samaje Perine, running back, 2014 through 2016. Joe Mixon, D.D. Westbrook, Sterling Shepard, Mark Andrews at tight end, Bobby Evans offensive line, Drew Samia offensive line, Cody Ford offensive line, Orlando Brown offensive line, Kyler Murray at quarterback, Trey Sermon at running back, CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver, Marquise Hollywood Brown wide receiver, Grant Calcaterra at tight end, Creed Humphrey offensive line, Jalen Hurts quarterback, Ramondre Stevenson running back. All that talent, all those names I just rattled off, they played in the NFL or are still in the NFL. In 2015, Bob Stoops was still the head coach. And many people forget that the Sooners finished with a really strong defense that year. In fact, they led Clemson at halftime, 17-16 in the semifinals of the playoffs. And then Lincoln Riley's offense was completely shut down in the second half. Clemson won the game 37-17. These are their words. I'm just reading this off. In 2017, this was the first year with Lincoln Riley as the head coach. This was, in the Oklahoma's untrained eyes opinion, his best team at Oklahoma as head coach. And then Oklahoma completely dominated Georgia in the first half, rushing and passing. And then Riley proceeded to, I'll fill in the word here, poop his pants in the second half. The Sooners offense, with perhaps their largest concentration of offensive talent in 20 years, goes 3 and out over their first 4 possessions of the second half. By the time Riley had happily figured things out, Georgia's defensive adjustments, the game became a shootout. 2018, second year with Riley as the head coach. Riley's offense is completely shut down over its first 4 possessions, and Alabama builds a 28-point lead in the first quarter. Riley's offense eventually gets on track, but the damage was done already. Oklahoma loses 45-34. 2019, by the middle of the season, the Sooners are averaging over 10 yards per play on offense. During the back half of the season, the Sooner offense ranks 34th nationally in yards per play. They got humiliated by LSU in the playoffs, 63-28. Lincoln Riley inherited a physical, tough program and made it softer every single year while he was the head coach at Oklahoma. So if all that's true, taking it at face value, this is not a good trend for USC. In other news, let's wrap this segment up. I'll get through it quickly. Normally, on Monday nights, Lincoln Riley does the Trojans Live Radio Show. Today, Monday, while I'm recording the show, Lincoln Riley, apparently he wasn't feeling well. So according to host Jordan Moore, he wasn't going to be available for the show. Instead, on the show, you had Dennis Simmons, Shaun, and Jonah Monheim. I believe Solomon Byrd was also scheduled. Jonah was on the show, as I just mentioned. He was pretty blunt when he said, Saturday was a brutal loss and painful and disappointing. We let a lot of people down with that one. I don't know if Solomon Byrd made the show, but I did read online that he was up watching film at 3 a.m. Sunday morning because he just couldn't get to sleep after the loss. Welcome to the Insomniacs Club, Solomon. I'm there with you, buddy. Now go to bed. You don't need to take this game that close to the vest. I get it. I appreciate it. I love it. Let the coaches be up that late. Go get some rest. Matt Leinart, he's a friend of the program, right? He was clear, he was concise, and he was to the point. USC's defense is ranked 107th in the country. Something has to change. Period. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is going to help you find the right people for your team faster, and they're going to do it for free. And as easy as it is to find a job on LinkedIn, it's also just as easy to create a free job posting on LinkedIn Jobs. And once you add your job listing, you're going to take that purple hashtag hiring frame and you're going to attach it to your own LinkedIn profile, and that's going to spread the word. And LinkedIn is going to provide you simple tools like screening questions, and that's going to make it really easy for you to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and, more importantly, who you want to hire. Recruiting the right person for your team means a better product. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs is going to help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. The college football season is here, and this season, Locked On is kicking up our coverage. Each Friday, Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. Locked On College Football Live will cover the college football playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and they're going to go in depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. You can find Locked On College Football Live every Friday from 11 a.m. till 12 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You're not going to want to miss it. I really do hope that Lincoln Riley just wasn't feeling well. I hope he feels better. I really do. I have no doubt that he is probably not feeling well because he's watching the game film over and over again. So if you are throwing up, feel better. I know that if I had to watch that hot mess on offense that USC trotted out in the second quarter, I probably wouldn't be feeling too good either if I was responsible for it. You might be sensing I like to use sarcasm a lot. It's my way of coping. It's not personal. So I apologize if coach is watching this. But let's be honest. The USC's offense for the last month or so, roughly, it's been a mess. Okay. Maybe a little bit of hyperbole. It hasn't been great. And it hasn't been playing like the #1 scoring offense in the country. Look, after scoring 14 points on their first 2 possessions against Utah, USC's offense had 8 straight possessions without a touchdown. The team's next points were a field goal in the third quarter. And their next touchdown on offense, it was set up by a great punt return. And that put USC's dynamic offense on Utah's 11-yard line. Again, sarcasm. I apologize. I think everyone was hoping that the defense would have improved, right? Going into the season. And look, in some cases, it has. I think individually, we've seen some improvement. Up front, I think, is where you've seen the most noticeable improvement. Defensive line, rush end. But my concern for the offense, if I was to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, the offense going to a funk, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the funkiest of the funk, stinky funk, I was at a 1. Literally, my last concern about Lincoln Riley's offense, unless injuries decimated Caleb Williams and 3 offensive line starters, I had no concern about the offense. So now the question is, why? Why is Riley's offense, why is it stuttering to get the words out? Kind of like me right now. I know some are going to try and make the argument that USC's offense maybe even overperformed against one of the best defenses in the country. And I'm referring to Utah. Look, if we're playing stats class, sure, you win the argument. However, USC's 32 points against Utah does not account for the pick six, or again, playing on a short 11-yard field following the punt return. Let me stat back up again. The one stat that I come back to: 8 straight possessions without a touchdown. A Lincoln Riley offense. And I don't care how good Utah's defense is. Let's go back to the Arizona State game, the Colorado game, Arizona, Notre Dame. Like I said, I'm cool with Lincoln Riley ditching the Trojans Live Radio Show Monday night. I'm sure he would much rather have his face buried in his playbook and watching film. And I know that's where I would be. Because literally, he has to find a way. He's got to figure out a way to jumpstart his offense right now. It can't be Marshawn Lloyd and the running game one quarter, and then at the beginning of the second quarter, looking at the stat sheet and going, oh, shoot, I need to get Caleb Williams going. He's only got 6 yards of passing offense in one quarter. What happens is now you're going one-dimensional again. You're giving Utah the advantage. And as a defensive, when you play defense, it is so much easier just to pass rush, pin your ears back, especially when you know it's a pass. You can see who USC is putting out there on the field. My partner over on WeAreSC.com, Chris Arledge, pointed out that Marshawn Lloyd, he's averaging 8 yards a carry this season. Pretty good, right? He also pointed out that he's only averaging 10 carries per game. Coach, you need to fix this. You need to get more balanced. You need to get this offense an identity that is not reliant on Caleb Williams pulling rabbits out of his 3-letter word. And no, it's not a hat. I pointed this out before. But when a guy who used to play defensive back in college sees these same things, I know my eyes are trained. Caleb hates throwing into tight coverages. And he doesn't like the timing routes. He better get used to it. And he better get used to it quickly, because that's what the NFL is. Every time, literally, Coach Riley, write this down if you're watching the show. Here's a play formation for you. Every time I hear USC's public address announcer say the Trojans have entered the La Victoria red zone, I want to see these wide receivers and tight end lined up in a bunch formation. Deuce Robinson, Jude Wolfe, and Jacoby Lane. One side, bunched up. I want to see Zachariah Branch lined up wide outside on the other side. And then for good measure, put Lake McCree in the backfield or offset him at H-back. I love that lineup. And then I'll tell you what, Coach, if you want me to design the route tree, I'll do that for you too. Again, sarcasm. I don't think I've seen that lineup though. But that's a lot of hype. That's a lot of jump ball scenarios. And give me Zach Branch one-on-one against anybody. Anytime, twice on Sundays. Now, again, if you have 3 jump ball scenarios and Zachariah Branch, plus you've got Lake McCree maybe being a safety valve leaking out somewhere, I don't care how good Utah's defense is statistically. You're not stopping that. Not if it's conceived well, drawn up in the sand. Utah has a really good defense, but USC was gashing them with the running game until Lincoln Riley shelved it in the second quarter. Look, Utah coach Kyle Whittingham, he summed it up after the game when he talked about his team's identity. Quote, but they have a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. So they're going to make some things happen, and that's just the way it is. But we have a pig farmer at quarterback, and we're proud of that guy. We love him, and what a warrior he is. We saw that grit that he has on that last drive. A couple of quarterback runs, and he found a way to win. That's what this team is. Bottom line is we found a way to win. Like I said, that's a heck of a football team we just beat tonight. Tons of athletes everywhere, speed everywhere. And we did it with toughness and grit, which again is our MO. Another thing, Chris Arledge was right when he said, I'm tired of watching USC have athletes and speed and flash and get whipped by guys with less talent who play with toughness and discipline and grit. I say, because I agree with what Chris said, USC should be able to have both. Why can't they have a Ferrari in offense as well as one of those Ford F-350 Super Duties that say, get the F out of my way work truck type of, thing. You can do both. I'll tell you what, you don't like those type of trucks? We're in Los Angeles. You need more shock and awe. Let's find another version of Thunder or Lightning to complement the passing game. USC's done this in the past. They've had that formula. They've had a Heisman winning quarterback with a couple of running backs. I've seen it. I know it's possible. Lincoln Riley, you can do it in LA. That's why you came here. As Captain Picard would say, make it so. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of you battling thousands of other players, including those pros and the sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're just going to watch the money kind of fill up in your bank account. PrizePicks is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. And PrizePicks covers all the sports. Any projections on any sport you watch, football, basketball, college, and professional. You like NBA? They got it. You like NHL? They got it. Check it out. What you're going to do is you're going to pick 2 to 6 players, and then will they go more than or less than their PrizePicks projections? And you can win up to $25 and 25 times your money on any entry. At PrizePicks, you aren't competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks it's an easy game to use as well. You can do it in 60 seconds or less. Let me give you a few examples. USC is going to score more than 40 points against Cal's defense. The Trojans defense will allow less than 30 points to Cal's offense. Caleb Williams will have more than 4 touchdown passes. That's it. PrizePicks offers a recently improved deposit and withdrawal experience, including the option to use Apple Pay, and that, is going to be very secure. So just go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege, and they're going to give you a first deposit match up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, we're getting through the show here. Watch out for the bear trap. Before the season started, I had two potential trap games. The Arizona game, which was ahead of the Notre Dame game, that game went 3 overtimes. And then USC's next game on the schedule, Cal, the Berkeley Bears. Reason being, it was coming after Utah, and it was ahead of that Washington game. Utah defense, Washington offense. Well, got news for you. After 2 straight losses, there are no more trap games. There are just must-win games. And let's be honest, I can't even fathom USC with Caleb Williams losing 3 games in a row. After the way they've been playing, it's starting to kind of creep in a little bit. Look, I guess USC has their backs against the wall. Really, all they have left to play for right now, as far as a championship, is that conference championship. Because I think their playoff goal it's on life support, and someone's going to be coming along real soon to pull the cord on that one. So let's focus on the conference championship, right? The question is USC, are the Trojans finally awake, and are they ready to play up to their capabilities? Because this is another inferior opponent. I'm not sure who this Cal team is. I'll be honest. I've watched maybe 20 minutes of Cal Bear football this season so far. I mean, why would I? I knew they were going to be a bad team coming into the season. And obviously, when I'm working, I'm not paying attention. And when I'm done watching USC, if these games are on late, I'm still working. So I'm not watching these games. Excuses, I know. The other day, I actually found out who Cal's starting quarterback is. And I had no clue. Still not sure who he is. But I do know that he's a redshirt freshman. His name's Fernando Mendoza. He's from Miami, Florida. And so far this season, he's thrown for 356 yards and 4 touchdowns. Look, Utah had a pig farmer playing quarterback who had similar numbers, maybe slightly better. So that's telling me that Cal's no-name quarterback is probably going to end up looking like a Heisman contender by the time this game is over too, right? They made a pig farmer look good. The fact that Cal's offense they're averaging 29 points a game means they're probably going to reach that number against USC's defense. Just kind of have to get used to it. Just accept that fact. The question is, can USC score more than the 31 points per game that Cal gives up defensively? Believe it or not, the Trojans are opening up as 10-point favorites for this game. Here's what's going to happen. If the Bears can get Jaden Ott and their running game going, this game's going to end up being a tight back and forth game. It's just the way it's going to be. Let me tell you why I need USC to win this game from a personal standpoint. And also from a historic perspective. This is a rivalry game. It's Cal's public school, USC private school. These guys have been playing each other a lot, well over 100 times. Everybody knows or kind of says, well, USC's got their 3 main rivals, Notre Dame, UCLA, and Stanford. Those are the 3 main ones. And I agree. But Cal is up there. They're the 4th rival in USC's long history. And these 2 teams, they don't like each other. For whatever reason, there's a lot of animosity when these programs get together. And it goes back decades, long time. Well before I started watching USC football. I've heard stories of the McKeever twins. They played defense for USC. Marlon and Marvin. They used to do some pretty dirty, nasty things when everybody was kind of all piled up. After the whistle, stuff happens. During my time, I know, in fact, Cal running back, Adam Eshamandu, he once accused a certain Trojan of trying to kill off any future Echamandus under a dog pile. Like I said, stuff happens. And again, it's his word versus USC saying, no, that never happened. I've seen a lot of stuff happen when these two teams play. And it happens in the stands, too. I've literally watched Cal fan throw frozen fruit at the USC band. I watched members of the Cal band do this. And I've seen Traveler literally get spooked and almost run somebody over because of these types of shenanigans. You know, Cal players love to talk trash. You don't believe me? Ask Shaun Jackson. Although he might have a hard time remembering after Kevin Ellison kind of introduced himself to him on that crossing pattern. That was a fun game. I was also, one of the greatest games ever played at the Coliseum when I attended was that 2004 game, USC versus Cal. Aaron Rodgers, that defensive stand by USC in the closed end of the Coliseum. It was loud. It was really loud. But I was up there in Berkeley for that 2003 game, that 3 overtime loss. When I left there, I felt violated after I walked back to my car. And I walked down Piedmont, Pratt Row, Sorority Row. I wasn't violated physically. I want to get that out there. But the verbal accosting from the females, I was scared. I mean, some of the suggestions that were directed at me and my buddies, it involved Traveler. And those were from the ladies. Those weren't the guys. 20 years later, 2023, I do not need another emotional loss up at Strawberry Canyon with that cannon up there on Tightwad Hill shooting itself off. I don't want that. I don't need that. I will avoid Piedmont Avenue for sure. Because I have to admit, I'm going to miss that place. I've had some really great memories. Some interesting memories that I've just gone over. But, this was once considered a trap game. Now this game has everyone's attention. And this is going to be the last time that USC, plays at Cal for at least for the foreseeable future. I do see Stanford and Cal being on USC's out-of-conference schedule in the future. But I will remind everybody, the last time USC played in Berkeley, 2 years ago, 2021, they lost. That was the mutiny game. That was the game that some of the players at USC did not want to go. They didn't want to play the game. Well, everybody wants to play and get up there. They got to get that losing taste out of their mouth and get a win. I'll be there. I'll have more on this game this week on Locked On USC. You'll be back with another episode of Locked On USC tomorrow, because that's what you do. You make it your first listen every day. And then when you're done watching this show, what are you doing? You're heading on over to wearesc.com, checking out all that content. You're going to enjoy it. So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.